the computational foundations of, or the computational version of the evolution story, which is perhaps a somewhat new interdisciplinary field relative to what we've been hearing about for the past 2 days. And we're very fortunate to have in this room some of the kind of foundational influential thinkers of this new area. So the story is new, and it might even be hoped that in 4 months' time, if this, with the work of everyone here, we might have significantly more to say about the story. But to get us started, I'm very happy to be introducing Christos Papadimitriou. So he's worked on a huge fraction of areas within computer science. So from computational complexity theory, graph theory, game theory, economics from a computational perspective, optimization, also databases, AI, learning theory, geometric algorithms, just many, many topics. Some of you may also not be aware he's also a prolific writer of novels, including a graphic novel that I think made it as high as number 6 on the Amazon bestsellers list for Greek. 4, made it as high as 4. Yeah, without further ado, Christos.
These were a few happy moments until Sarah Palin's book came out. Many thanks, Paul, for the kind introduction. Thanks all for coming. I don't know how many of you have, I don't like this metaphor. How many of you have been in a real boot camp? So it's not a nice place, right? But that's why I sort of, but I hope you all agree. In every boot camp there is one drill sergeant who sort of wants to give everybody an easier time. Okay, so my ambition is to be this person. Okay, all right. So computational views of evolution. What on earth can this be? Okay, and I'll start by pointing out that it's nothing new. 200 years ago. This is Charles Babbage, the other great British scholar of the 19th century, okay, who is the great grandfather of the computer. Okay, so he wrote a treatise, the 9th Bridgewater Treatise. It's around, I believe, 1813. The Earl of Bridgewater handed down a series of books, pointing to the goodness, to the benevolence of the Supreme Being. And here is Charles Babbage's contribution. He actually did say something like that. Okay, so he didn't use the word algorithm, but he did say his argument is that evolution happens, but it's algorithmic. Okay, so that nice try, I think. Second, so these are the famous debate, debate in absentia, I guess, between Wallace and Darwin, where as you know, Wallace, a great natural scientist of the 19th century, while he was away in Malaysia, burning with fever, he he conceived natural selection, and he wrote this letter to the other great naturalist whom he admired. And Darwin read it and acted with impeccable academic integrity. He convened a sort of a debate where both his and Wallace's papers were, drafts were read. And if you read these, which I hope you all do, they're amazing documents. And a good part of the argument of both, so they have a lot of things in common. One of these is that they point out that exponentials are incompatible with life. Okay, so and then the argument is exponentials is what population growth predicts. How come we don't see them? And the answer is that life is hard and only the fit survive. Okay, so and that's the beginning of the argument. And of course we have the origin of species, where at Berkeley, the Department of Rhetoric used to teach a course based on this, because it is, in some sense, the history's most prominent example of scientific rhetoric. Okay, so, incidentally, in the web, you can find a phylogenetic tree of these 6 editions. Okay, and with a lot of commentary, including an interesting aspect is the number of references of the word God. Okay, which goes, which has an interesting harmonic of 2. A great thinker of evolution, Augustus Weizmann, not the other Weizmann, okay, not our Daniel. Wrote a great in his inaugural address as the president of Freiburg, as the rector of Freiburg University, I believe. He wrote several papers. One of them was a polemic against Lamarck, in which he used really modern, what would be 100 years later modern cryptography. His argument, as explained actually by David Haig in a recent article, essentially is that the mapping from genotype to phenotype, that the germ cells separate from the soma early, and as a result, the mapping from genotype to phenotype is sort of one way. In other words, it's difficult to be inverted. Okay, so life experience cannot be inflicted upon the germ cells.
Isn't it also one way as far as the dimension of one space being much bigger than the other?
Of course, yes, right. I know, but one of the themes of this talk is that dimension of space and magnitude does not always tell the whole story. Okay, that there is something about some functions are from a very small space to are sort of from between space of different dimensions, but still they're invertible. They're computationally invertible. Okay, so okay, yeah, good point. And of course, soon after Darwin, even though people didn't know, evolution came much closer to modern computer science because this great man noticed that inheritance is discrete. And incidentally, I don't know how many of you know, but I believe that the number of citations between the first 35 years of this book, arguably one of the 10 greatest works of science, in science, was not very noted. And I have not read these papers, but those who have tell me that these people didn't get it. Okay. But of course, the beginning of the 20th century, things changed, and there was the crisis in evolution, the sort of Thomas Kuhn's scientific crisis hit evolution, and these great mathematicians, so sort of if you are a mathematician, and many of us are, so we should be proud of this is an amazing feat of mathematics. So that it sort of created the modern approach to evolution, neo-Darwinism, and at about the same time, something else was happening. Okay, so some other great mathematicians were were sort of presaging the computers. Okay, sort of and the theory of computation. Computer science was sort of unique among sciences in that. So basically, this is a talk also talking about computer science. Okay, so it's in some sense it's not easy task. It's talking about one's mother. Okay, so it will be hard not to have. I'll try not to make it empty praise. Okay, but computer science is unique among sciences because of two things. Okay, first of all, its theory came first. Okay, and its incarnation was the result of theory. Okay, so this is the greatest mathematical mind of that era. This man was the man who actually brought computer to existence. The second unique and interesting thing about computer science is that computer science was born with a very painful understanding of its own limitations. Okay, because the first paper in computer science is by this man, and basically it shows that there are uncomputable problems. Okay, so that other sciences. Okay, so they realize their limitations like the rest of us in middle age. Okay, so but not computer science. Okay, this, as I said, is a meeting of minds between many communities, but most notably evolutionary biologists and computer scientists. Okay, so and this is a talk about this meeting of minds, and I sort of, it's clear what you guys bring to the table. Okay, sort of the world's most fascinating problem, and deep thought by brilliant people over 150 years. Okay, so let me try to tell you what we bring to the table. All right, it's the theory of computing, which is this institute's title. Okay, Institute for the Theory of Computing, Simon's Institute for the Theory of Computing, is a mathematical framework, stance, and methodology for understanding the capabilities and limitations of the computer. So this sounds like a limited project, okay, but it's extremely open-ended, okay. For example, why is the Simon's Institute of Theory of Computing organizing semesters like evolutionary biology and computing? Okay, and the reason is this. Okay, so that what we call, this is part of the ideology and DNA of the institute. Okay, so the lens of computation, and our motto is that when the point of view of the theory of computing is applied to a field of science, often, not always, and not without bumps, progress happens. Okay, and there are many examples of that, and all of them will be eventually celebrated. For example, quantum mechanics is actually our sister program, but also statistical physics, game theory and economics, social science, and I'm meeting out, and of course molecular biology and also evolution. Okay. Incidentally, of all these fields, I believe that there is special affinity between computation and biology, and here is my lame attempt at explaining the reason that in biology there is something that can be called innate explicit code. Okay, by this I mean the following: that physics has laws, but they are laconic and they are not reminiscent of a computer program. Okay, in other words, there are no particles in the solar system tell us whether Newton's laws are cubic or quadratic. Okay, whereas in biology, in life, we have that. Okay, so this is an intuitive reason why I believe that biology and also social science is a more apt peer of computation. In any event. So let me give you the theory of computing in a nutshell, all right? I mean, what is this institute about? So basically, it's about, it's also a life science, okay? So we believe that life is hard, and occasionally computers can help, and that's what we call algorithms. And oftentimes, they can't, and that's what we call complexity. Okay, so algorithms and complexity. People will tell you the theory of computing is not just about algorithms and complexity. And they're right, but let's talk about algorithms and complexity because they are the backbone of the modern theory of computing. So, what the basic specimen of the theory of computing is what we call a computational problem, which is something that computers must solve. Okay, so it's one tiny manifestation that life is hard, which might be solved by a computer. And what is a computational problem? For the time being, but we're going to modify that. So imagine that it's an infinity of inputs, and each one of them is looking for an output. Okay, and the output, of course, must be in a particular relationship with the input. And this relationship is always very well understood, okay? At least we may not know how to solve the problem, but we know what we want, okay? Otherwise, it's there's very little theory that can be done. The inputs and the outputs can be represented as strings of bits, okay? That's some kind of occupational preoccupation that you can map them to bits, and if you have graphs, matrices, anything you can do that. So an algorithm, and you know what an algorithm is. You have been to elementary school. You learn long division. So it's basically a process that is well understood and so on. And expressed usually in a particular rigorous language, but an algorithm A for a computational problem C, first of all, it must be correct, which means that it must eventually stop with the right output for each input of C. So if you give it an input of C, it will stop with eventually the right output. And then there is this interesting function, T sub A C of n, which is the number of elementary steps. What's an elementary step? Excellent question. Never leads to a good discussion. Okay, so anything is what you think as an elementary step is probably a good idea of as an elementary step. Okay, a number of elementary steps the algorithm takes until completion. When supplied with an input of length n, okay, that's what this variable says, is the length of the input, and this should be maximized over all inputs of length n. Okay, so what we are doing is that is called worst case analysis. Okay, and this is the pride and burden of our field. All right, that we emphasize for reasons that are both cultural and very scientific. Okay, so in other words, they're both defensible and personal. And cultural.
Why?
Sorry?
What's the? Can you defend it real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Okay. All right. So very quickly, right? So that this is why don't we do, for example, average case analysis, right? Many reasons. Okay. The basic reason is that to do an average case analysis, you need an input distribution. Input distributions are, in other words, you want to have a Bayesian prior for the input, all right? Which is fine, okay? And so when we know a prior, we always work, and we all, there are many computer scientists work on doing average case complexity, right? But this is a second-class citizen, in our work, and the reason is the following: that imagine that you have an algorithm for finding shortest paths, all right? I mean, between in a graph. What is the input? What is your input graphs, all right? What are your input graphs? I mean, you can imagine a few plausible models, sort of distributions of input graphs. But then you realize the following: that this program will not run in isolation, will not wait for organic inputs to give outputs, but will be a subroutine in a bigger program that does something else, okay? So the input is the output of the other program, all right? So it's much less plausible to assume that there is an organic distribution that describes what this stupid program spits out. Okay, so the hierarchy and sort of and recursion and so on of computer science sort of makes it implausible, sort of that it's much more interesting, sort of much more productive to think about worst case. All right, I mean so.
It seems like a good point to argue about later, but you could presumably make the same argument about integers and distributions of primes and so on, which effectively act as if they're random, and therefore it's a good ensemble for them. So,
yes. No. Yes, I mean, no. I'm talking about talking about something else. I mean, the primes are the output of the program, right? I mean, in some sense. I mean, so in some sense they make my point, okay? But in any way.
But then they also make a point about universality, that a lot of times when numbers get very big, there is a number sort of classes, sort of natural distributions is not very many. That's one where I think that so then there's an argument that any distribution, there's huge numbers of distributions, but the scaling properties may not be that different.
So let me stay what you said first.
Class, I think,
let me stay on the way you started. That this is an excellent point to discuss later. Okay, right. All right. So I want to give you a few computational problems that you may have heard of. Linear programming, this that I mentioned before, famous travel and salesman problem. I know you have heard about it. Integer programming, the evil twin of linear programming. And I'll tell you a few problems that come from the study of life. Sequence alignment and sequence centroid. Okay, so what's sequence alignment? The input is two sequences and the parameter d, and the output sought is an alignment with at most d skips and overrides. And as you all know, there is an algorithm A with T of S sub AC, and AC is not this AC, it's the AC from the previous slide, okay? Such that is order of n squared, okay? So it can be done in n squared. And when d is small, when in other words you know that the things can be aligned, this can be solved in linear time, and the rest is history, okay? There are amazingly popular codes that actually do things, okay? And much of molecular computational biology is based on this. So that's sequence alignment, one of the successes, so to speak, of algorithms. Sequence centroid is a problem I made up, but I know people things like this have made researchers lose sleep. So you are given S sequences, several sequences, and the parameter d again, and you want a new sequence which has any distance at most d from each of these input sequences, all right? And it turns out that this time all algorithms that one can think of are exponential, right? And as you all know, okay, exponentials are incompatible with life, okay, so we don't like them, all right? So,
and here is...
And here, let's say, is the total length of the strings, okay? Yeah, thanks.
But this is one whether, so there may not be such a sequence at all.
Of course, yes, right, yeah. And that's what we want to find out that, okay? In which case, we'll try a bigger D, okay? So I'm presenting problems in a very stylized way, so that sort of so that they stay clear. So here is sort of in some sense the centroid of our own field, right? I mean, NP is the class of all search problems, right? All problems like the ones I have shown you. P is all such problems that can be solved in polynomial time, okay? For example, sequence alignment. We strongly believe that P is not equal to NP, and we have not, after 50 years, we still are not close to a proof this has joined the realm of the deepest problems in mathematics. It's probably the deepest problem, unsolved problem in mathematics. A conjecture, a humble conjecture is that sequence centroid is not in P, okay, cannot be solved in polynomial time. And the fact is that these two conjectures are equivalent, right? Because it turns out that sequence centroid condenses the power of all NP. You can, any search problem, you can, through a very complicated algorithm, you can reduce it to sequence centroid. Okay, so sequence centroid is NP complete. Okay, that's the technical term for such problems, and therefore, if P is not equal to NP, as we all believe, sequence centroid is incompatible with life. Okay, so you know it's exponential. So what's the theory of computing? It's a comprehensive methodology for dealing with computational problems. You develop efficient algorithms for them. If you try like a good soldier many times and you don't, then you establish complexity lower bounds, such as NP completeness, and you resort to more complex strategies, such as approximations and heuristics, to which I'm going to come back again. All right. So I want to give you. So this, you know, I showed you a couple of problems like sequence alignment that are akin to the study of life. I'm going to just shoot 5 minutes by showing you a story. All right. I mean, we're interested in algorithms embedded in life. Okay, which is sort of much more interesting. And you all know the protein folding problem, right? I mean, that's an immensely hard problem. So, you know, in some sense, in theoretical physics, you want to find the lowest energy configuration of a string of amino acids, of a sequence of amino acids. And then there is something called, that used to be called, I don't know if you have heard this phrase now, how often you hear this phrase now, but 20 years ago you did, Levinthal's paradox, which is this: how come this stupid molecule solves in a millisecond what the biggest computers in the world cannot solve ever? Okay, you know, this is an interesting sort of, you know, somewhat facetious, but you know, it's an interesting way of putting of extracting, if you wish, a paradox, a conundrum out of this situation, right?
The phrase is still used now because supercomputers 20 years on still can't do it.
Okay. So the paradox deepens, so to speak.
But are you implying that this problem is relevant for evolution?
No. So you know, so right.
Does the protein actually solve the problem? That is, do we know it achieves the true benefit?
These are all wonderful questions. I agree. So you know, I have an opinion on the matter. You know, so and it will probably come out in the next 5 minutes.
Christos, was this a paradox, right? I mean, if I want to, say, for example, find the maximum of a bunch of integers, right? You know, I just make strands of spaghetti that length and then sort of stand them on end and pick the longest strand out, right? And you know, that is sort of, by that kind of physical algorithm, I've solved the problem much faster than, you know, sort of theorems about.
Okay. So you. I mean, no, you probably don't count the time it took you to cut the spaghetti.
Yeah, but I mean, it's sort of this.
Right.
You know.
Yes, I mean, so the point is that there are sound scientific reasons to believe. Okay, that's something else. I'm delighted. Still that you pointed this out. You know, what is our sister program studying? Okay, I mean, our sister program is studying sort of quantum computation. I mean, what does it come from? Okay, it comes from Feynman's ingenious observation. All right, I mean, that computers can simulate all classical systems. All right, including stacks of spaghetti. All right, so whatever you can achieve with your spaghetti algorithm, I can do with my computer, with my digital computer. Okay. The only exception that Feynman was able to find was quantum systems, right? And hence, 30 years later, we're studying quantum computing. Okay, so that's, in other words, that's why nobody studies spaghetti computing, right? Because sort of, we understand that it's under control, right? And so, okay.
But it seems to me there's another important point here, which is that the evolution doesn't care about this problem. The evolution has a problem which it tries to solve involving the proteins, which is finding proteins that do fold easily.
Okay.
So this is, it's somehow...
Okay. So you can give the 5 more next minutes of my talk. Okay, so you just did actually. Okay, so good. Right. Yeah, I agree with you. So here.
Was the HP one?
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I'll explain. Yeah. So around 1990, biologist called Kent Deal, then at UCSF, now at Stony Brook, came up with something called the HP model. So basically it says, all right, I know there are 20 amino acids, but let's say there are 2 amino acids, hydrophilic and hydrophobic, okay? There are 2 amino acids only, right? And then basically a protein is a string of hydrophilic and hydrophobic, okay? And now how do you fold it? First of all, you fold it in 2 dimensions, obviously, okay, because we can, and then you fold it in 2 dimensions. So here is how you fold. Basically, you fold it on the grid in such a way that as many p's as you can are next to each other, right? So basically the score is, which means lower, how low is the energy of this? Well, it's 4, because there are 4 incidental neighborhoods of hydrophobic amino acids. All right, so everybody understands the problem. So basically, he said, all right. When Kent Deal said, all right, we cannot solve the real problem. Let's at least work on a cartoon problem, right? And that's the cartoon problem. All right, 2 dimensions, 2 amino acids, just a simple score. And then, about 10 years later, a bunch of people, including our group, proved that the HP folding problem is empty complete. Okay? And in some sense, this is Levi-Strauss paradox sharpened. Exponentials are incompatible with life.
Wait, I don't know. What do you mean exponentials incompatible with life?
I mean exactly what Wallace and Darwin meant, which is basically that you don't see true exponential growth in life. Mm-hmm. It's unsustainable. Mm-hmm. Okay? So it does not scale, which is what computer scientists think. Okay? This is in some sense the credo of computer science also. Okay? We use and reuse the function exp. Okay, don't get me wrong with that, all right? And we love it. Okay, and it inverse even better. Okay, but when I say exponential, I mean that exponential growth is unsustainable. It doesn't scale. It's not what computation is about. Okay, and so the question is, can it be that these stupid molecules solve an empty hard problem? Or is the real problem simpler than the HP cartoon? Which is hard to believe, okay? Because the real problem is, of course, much more complicated. And there is another thought, which is what Daniel sketched. What could it be that proteins have been selected, actual proteins in organisms, have been selected so that they fold easily? And remember, that empty completeness is a corollary of worst case. Because even the hardest problems have easy inputs. Okay, there is no harder problem than the travel itself is no problem. All right, and yet it does have simple inputs. Okay, I can solve this travel itself problem. You can solve this travel itself no problem. Right? Your 2-year-old child can solve this travel itself no problem. Yeah.
There's also possibly another explanation, right? That
okay,
the theory is all about n going off to infinity, and so maybe the relevant ends for life are not where.
Okay, very good. So what? Okay, that's actually very good. That I have to. This is something absolutely that we have to talk about. that the theory of complexity is asymptotic. It's not only worst case, but it's also asymptotic, okay? It means that when you say exponential, it could be 2 to the square root of n or 2 to the square root of n over 10, okay? In which case, n equals 200 is not a problem, right? I mean, I totally agree, right? Okay, so that's
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that that's...
No, but I mean,
applied
but
to
but it's definitely something we have to keep in mind, yes.
I mean, there's also another possibility with Monty said that protein isn't solving the problem. The protein isn't folded into the lower state.
Well, let me. Yes, I know. So I think Monty, Daniel, and I are on the same page. Okay. So, all right. So, so what I'm saying is that life is hard, but natural selection can favor easy inputs. And a bunch of years ago, we did experiments. So I just wanted to tell you about these experiments. Because it also prepares you for something that comes next, which is heuristics. We did experiments with the traveling salesman problem. So here's what we did. We created a population of TSP inputs. In other words, we created a population of maps, right, of city maps. So each individual in this population looked like this, all right? And then what we did is we evolved these populations through mutation, but not recombination. This means the following: that we allowed some of these maps to change a little. Sort of, in other words, we chose at random a few cities and moved them a little around. Okay, in them. And the question is, which maps did we change? And we favored maps that were fit, where fit means that a stupid algorithm that we devised did well. Okay, or if you wish, just to come to Monty's point of view, when I say the stupid algorithm did well, it was like a simulate annealing kind of type of algorithm, and we said it did well when it did not find much diversity in the output. Okay. So maybe the landscape had a deep well somewhere, but we don't care about that, okay, right? I mean, so exactly, we didn't solve the problem. We tried, okay. That's something that nature plausibly does, and after a few generations, the population all looks like that. So it was sort of funny. But yes, I mean, we got a population of boring instances of the traveling salesman problem, right? I mean, so this taught us at least one thing. Not that we had an easy time publishing it, I mean, but it taught us one thing, that you can sort of evolve not good solutions, but at least good instances, good inputs. Okay, so we know that this is something that, yeah. You have a question?
No.
So, but the proteins that people try to fold are, I mean, they're actual amino acid sequences. They don't try to fold, and they're still hard. I mean, they don't try to, generate a random string of amino acids and then fold that.
I understand. So
why is that still hard?
It's hard because we are not nature. That we don't do what nature does. Okay, which is obviously some heuristic that creates good basins of attraction.
No, but this is an actual protein, so the base is actually there. Because the protein
Right.
can do it in the
Right.
seconds, and the computers can do nanoseconds.
Right.
Or maybe microseconds.
Well, computers still cannot do it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're 9 orders of magnitude or
Right.
12 orders of magnitude shorter than time.
Okay, so I'm delighted this is generated discussion. I mean, I don't agree with Daniel on the last remark, but I'll go on. Okay, so far I have told you that algorithms are ways of mapping inputs that you have in your hand, an input that you have in your hand, in your output that you have in your hand, right? So, but there are some very interesting situations where the input is given to you bit by bit. And you must present, you must do something before the next bit is available to you. Is this clear? So these are called online algorithms. And a lot of computer science deals with online algorithms. So what I'm saying, the input-output paradigm is not universal, okay? We do study other things. And I'm going to give you my favorite algorithm in all this. And it's my favorite problem. And it's the following. Every day you must choose one of n experts, right? So you have a set of n experts and you must choose one to follow their advice. Imagine of it as a financial advice. And the advice expert I on day t results in a gain g sub I t, and it can be both negative and positive, right? Is it clear so far? So you are sort of you are putting your hands your fate in the hands of one expert, and so these things gs of ITs are completely arbitrary. They don't come from a distribution, you can even think that fate or your worst enemy or a prankster is applying them to you, trying to embarrass you. Okay? Worst case again. Right? Then the challenge is to do as well as the best expert in retrospect. Okay? So basically you want to do something that will do as well as the best expert among them in the bunch would have done. Okay, if you wish, you want to have, forget this. You want to have, forget the experts. You want to create a portfolio, and every day change it in such a way that your portfolio will perform as well as the best stock in the portfolio, as if you had from the beginning chosen one stock and the best stock and stuck with it. Okay, that's the challenge. It sort of seems impossible. And yet it can be achieved, and it can be done. This is such an amazing fact that it has been discovered, forgotten, and rediscovered many times. In economics, an economist called Hannan discovered it in '58, so economists call this Hannan consistency. Thomas Cover, a brilliant control theorist from Stanford, who unfortunately died recently, came up with it when in his study of financial mathematics in 1991. Then artificial intelligence workers in computer science discovered and called it discovered the very version. Then other artificial intelligence researchers discovered it and called it boosting. People in game theory call it no regret learning. And I guess what theoretical computer science is proud of is that it has rediscovered it last, but it hasn't forgotten it. And actually it's telling other people about it, right? That's what I'm doing now, right? So, okay, so, this algorithm is called multiplicative weights update. And initially assign all experts the same weight or probability, right? So you say, all right, I'm agnostic, you guys all have the same. Or in fact, think of the distribution of the experts as a stock portfolio, right? And at each step, that's the whole algorithm, increase the weight of each by this particular quantity, okay? Which is you multiply it by 1 plus epsilon, a small multiplier, and the smaller you keep it, the more you are hedging your bet, times how well they did, or badly, they did right there, okay? So that day. So every day you change your portfolio, sort of, in some sense, reflecting very faithfully how each stock did, okay? That's an amazingly simple algorithm. And the theorem is that it does approximately as well as the best expert.
So the G is how well it does from one day to the next?
That particular day. That particular day. Okay, so basically you react instinctively as you would have. So it's a very natural algorithm. It's not very unlikely. It's not hard to believe that maybe even organisms do something like that. Okay, so in fact they do. Okay, I'll tell you about it. So it does as well as the best expert, right? And okay, proof. Incidentally, okay, when I, I have told you what theoretical computer scientists do, sort of, in very sort of top level and formal terms, okay? I'll tell you a little more informally. First of all, we project in black, as you know, okay, that's one thing we do differently. And two, we love calculations, but we are very interested in proving, of distilling our understanding of a problem through an interesting theorem. Okay, so a lot of our energy goes into proving theorems, and we use for that sometimes very sophisticated mathematics, usually probability and combinatorics, but also other things like analysis, geometry. That's why sort of the Simons Institute is organizing semesters for geometry, analysis, number theory, and so on. So in any event, so there is a proof that proves that. Okay, I'm going to give you only the intuition of this proof. Each day, the probability pi that I'm going to choose this expert the next day becomes pi multiplied by this. Or if you wish, because epsilon is so small, it's basically the exponential of this. And after many days, pi is sort of proportional, modulo normalization, to the expectation of how well, in other words, how well the stock, so to speak, has performed so far. Okay. As a result, the portfolio will consist almost exclusively of the best performing stock. Okay? Is it clear? Now it's not exactly end of the proof, okay? Because maybe you are out of phase with the best stock, all right? In other words, you nurtured it, its growth by not giving enough weight. So maybe you didn't take advantage of its growth. But it turns out that a simple potential function argument proves that this cannot happen consistently. Okay, so and that's what and this is sort of the intuition behind the proof.
It just seems like you had two experts and they were going like this.
So then it's a much easier. Basically. Right. I mean, it's if you have even n experts going like this, then it's a much easier problem. Okay, so then it's a much easier way to see. If you want to, there is, if you want to look, there is a nice proof. Costas showed it to me 2 days ago that Avrim Blum has online. So then it has a simple proof. This one, in order to complete this proof, you want a potential function argument, which are always magical and you don't know where they came from. Okay,
But you're saying it's good in that case. I think it'd be quite bad.
No, it's fine. It's good. It's actually.
Nobody does very well in that case.
No.
I mean, would you if they were if each? I mean, this is kind of a cartoon. It's kind of a special case, but like if you had them, one good, one bad, and they flip every day like that, exactly equal, wouldn't you do worse than either expert?
The weight is uniform then, so you choose them randomly. So in expectation you do well.
But an example like that can give you the
Oh, okay. You do off by epsilon.
No, sorry.
There's a,
Okay. So here is my answer. I forgot to tell you that we're talking in expectation.
Yeah.
Okay, I forgot the big A in front. Okay, right. I mean, so it's okay. Okay, I mean, so it's we love worst case, but we are not stupid. Right?
Sorry, you're doing exponential. You're doing expectation of this exponential.
We are doing expectation of in other words, what we want in the end to have done in expectation as well.
No, but that's not. But that's one of those ones where one learns from physics of random systems that's extremely. The expectation is dominated by extremely rare events, and so if you say you want to do on the expectation of the that's why physics is not applicable everywhere. Okay, so. Yes. So let me convince you. So there is. Okay. So that's the question.
Okay. So we have built-in concentration. Okay. So rare events do happen, but we're good. Okay. So that's the. In fact, these same algorithms solves the most coveted problems in our field. Okay, so linear convex programming, zero-sum games, network congestion. So if we can solve it by other means, well, I'm exaggerating. We can also solve it by multiplicative weight update, which is an amazing thing. So we still have to recover from the shock. In any event, okay, so.
I guess I'm confused what the definition of solve is. So your result that depends on epsilon and it depends on the total time.
Right.
And what that function is matters.
Right. Yes. So you want the precise statement. I love it. Okay. So the precise statement is the following: that if you choose your epsilon to be about 1 over square root of t, so if you do a year, it's going to be 19, 1 over 19. Okay. Then what your expected average is 1 over square root of t, close to the best expert. Okay. All right. One thing that I want to finish this part of my talk with is to talk about heuristics inspired by evolution. Right? This is an amazing part, sort of a very, very generous part of the interface between evolution and computer science, and of course I have to talk about it. Just precaution. Is there anybody here who works in this area? Is there anybody out there who works in this area? Okay, right. So it's this is going to be broadcasted and archived. So I have to be a little civilized here, So there has been immense inspiration. Okay, as soon as people realize that they cannot solve all problems, they look for inspiration to evolution. In fact, one of the earliest papers is an amazing technical report, a very presaging technical report from IBM called "Design by Natural Selection." There were 2 papers already on local search, which basically is selection by mutation. Then, of course, physicists came in and appropriated the field. Okay, they called it simulated annealing. Okay, which I think is the secondary inspiration.
No, that's absolutely that is the right one for the third one there. Nothing to do with evolution in this bridge.
Okay, what I'm saying is this. Okay, that this became so popular that it eclipsed this. And I feel that this is tough, okay, because I realize that I realize the accuracy of the metaphor, okay. I'm just saying it's not the most apt, and it's not the only one. Then there was a nice David Alberts and Umesh came up with something called "Go with the Winners," which then taboo search was already in the cards and all that. So we have a whole stable of very interesting heuristics inspired by evolution, sort of, with mutations, and in simulated annealing, of course, acceptance or rejection of mutations with probabilities decreasing with temperature and temperature decreasing. All right. And then on this corner we have genetic algorithms. Okay, so genetic algorithms, the algorithms we have seen so far maintain just one solution, just a few numbers of a small population of solutions. These are serious about the population. What they do is they encode the solutions as some kind of genotype, and the next generation is created by mutations and usually by recombination. And this was sort of, the man who brought us all this is John Holland in a very influential book in 1980, okay, where he proposed the genetic algorithms as both a very interesting way of studying evolution and also as a very promising way for solving optimization problems. And there are so many other things. Okay, there is something called evolutionary strategies, which is genetic algorithms on working on vectors of real numbers. There is something called evolutionary programming, which is the same thing applied to the problem of designing good programs, and genetic programming, which is another way of looking at where genes are used actually. differential evolution. And not to mention other wonderful algorithms inspired by life, like ant colony algorithms, beehive algorithms, believe it or not, cuckoo algorithms, and of course, something that is perhaps a little more interesting is there is a very interesting strain of research on artificial life, on programs that actually and I know that our chairman here is a great aficionado of this and worker in this very interesting strain. So there is a rough classification. Okay, there is something that I call simulated annealing, which is variance of the local search algorithm, one solution or very few solutions maintained, a mutation by no recombination, and this corresponds directly squarely to asexual evolution. And genetic algorithms, population of solutions maintained, genetic encoding, new generation produced through mutation plus recombination, and this corresponds to sexual evolution, all right? And
just to make like that, the first one corresponds to asexual evolution in a small population, not a big population.
Yes, right, yeah. But in some sense, asexual evolution population, as you know, doesn't matter much. So it's independent experiments if you wish.
But they compete with each other.
They do compete with each other. Yes, right. Yeah, true.
Population matters a lot.
Yeah. So.
That comes back to the rare events, right? If there's a rare cause, the very big population finds them, and the small population doesn't.
Of course. Yes. True. Yeah. No. We are. So let me compare the two. So I'm going to be subjective here. I find that the Achillean heel of genetic algorithms is the genetic encoding. Okay. And this is very hard to do right. They must reflect latent modularity in the solution space. That is very hard to detect. In other words, you have to design the code of life for every single problem. Okay, this is what you have to do. Okay, in some sense, the code of life is the encoding for the genetic algorithm which has done wonders for optimizing life on Earth. Okay, so for every single problem you want to apply the genetic algorithms, you have to be as clever. Okay, in any event, not many practical successes known, and this is where I'm losing friends every time I say that. Okay, but it's true. And in contrast, simulated annealing heuristics. So I love genetic algorithms. Everybody loves genetic algorithms. Okay, when you talk about genetic algorithms to somebody who is interested in solving a problem, to a practitioner, their eyes light up, and they think that they're going to go to the lab and program this thing and get amazing results in a couple of weeks, and then a couple of weeks they come with their head down. Okay, that this is usually what happens. And in contrast, simulated annealing heuristics are often the best known algorithms for certain applications, and practitioners swear by them. Okay. Okay, so I'll leave you. I'm just telling you what is going to be next. I'm going to talk a little about the fascinating problems in evolution. All right. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in half an hour.
That slide on genetic algorithms was different when you talked at ISD. It was shorter.
Shorter.
Just said genetic algorithms don't work.
Really? Yeah.
So actually, since a quick question about populations and so on came up, so it seems one of the difficulties in designing genetic algorithms, obviously there's the much more bigger difficulty you mentioned, but there's also the balance of how big a population you choose and how long a time do you run.
Of course.
That's
Yeah.
something which I think there's very little.
Yeah. So reading surveys. So I spend a lot of the past few days trying to read, to make a fair surveying of the genetic algorithm, and you see a lot of statements of the form that genetic algorithms are robust with respect to many of these things. I mean, that's Monty.
So I was just going to say, from the point of view of an evolutionary biologist, genetic algorithms seem very amusing because they assume that nature has actually found the optimal solution. Nuclear biologists don't think that's true.
Excellent. Okay, so you know, it's amazing when people, when wise people in the audience talk about your next slide. Okay, you know, so, yeah.
Can I just get back to the spaghetti thing? So there, right, I mean, your thing saying, okay, well, it doesn't do any better. I mean, that's some comment about the form of the input, right? If the input was given to you as strands of spaghetti, this takes precisely one step to find the maximum, right? And similarly, you know, if you were given integers in terms of their prime factorization instead of as bit strings, they'd be easy to factor into primes, right? And so when you're sort of talking about protein folding, that's sort of thinking that your input is, you know, some, you know, kind of, you know, big matrix of things, but, you know, is nature actually acting on that input, or is the
right? So exactly. I'm very aware that the true story is amazingly more complicated. Okay, so you know, so when I mean, you know, I heard recently a talk at UCSF by sort of a proteins researcher, who basically his point was that there are a few, you know, there are proteins that are created as follows. Okay, once the first few amino acids come out, the messengers go out and say, hey, there is a protein that starts this way, starting. Okay, and then this assembles a whole faculty of trainers, you know, of chaperones, who come there, sort of, you know, in fact, there are membrane simulators among them. So, you know, in other words, they say, young man, when you grow up, you are going to go through one of these, okay? So let's see how good you are, okay? So, you know, and so the story is sort of, you know, incredibly, you know, sometimes when I go to talks in biology, sort of, you know, I have the feeling, sort of, you know, that somebody upstairs is laughing at us, okay? You know, so they say, aha, so you have the genetic, so you have the DNA, you have the human genome. Okay, good, all right.
Just to add one more dimension to the complexity, there are intrinsically disordered proteins, also proteins which have not
many several natural states. Sorry.
And they are conserved across species. So in
Okay.
that sense,
Okay, that's
they have not been solved. In the folding
interesting.
problem, it's also not been solved in case of many of these.
Right, yeah. So listen, okay. So you know, as I hope I made clear. So you know, my mention of the protein folding problem was totally tongue in cheek. So you know, I don't think that it's a computational problem. So in any reasonable way. Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you.